Episode 1 established the ground of the 2026 rupture, the moment the atmospheric delusion finally hit the wall of physical reality. But to understand why the wall collapsed, we have to move from the climate to the nodes. We are moving away from the person and toward the vacancy. A null is a systemic placeholder, a node in the architecture that occupies space and consumes the bandwidth of the sovereign vector while returning exactly zero structural value to the stack. It is the biological equivalent of a heat sink, absorbing the kinetic energy of builders and radiating it back into the system as waste heat and noise. In Episode 2, we zoom into the rot in the basement to audit the phenotype of failure that has turned our civilization into a hospice. Part 1. The anatomy of the null. The null is not a personality defect. It is a metabolic failure. In the thermodynamics of agency, a null functions as a point of absolute resistance. They survive through a process of atmospheric shielding, generating a fog of emotional complexity and vibe checks to serve as a defensive perimeter. If they can force the room to prioritize processing feelings over auditing output, they remain. Part 2. Managed decay, the institutional hospice. By 2026, our institutions have undergone a total inversion. They no longer exist to amplify the sovereign vector. They have been redesigned to buffer the null. This is the state of managed decay. We have granted a universal veto to the least-agentic nodes in our society, allowing the most fragile participants to halt construction the moment it feels too high pressure. This is trauma-informed sclerosis, the weaponization of empathy to paralyze agency. Our bureaucracies are no longer in the business of curing the housing crisis or fixing the energy grid. They are simply running the hospice protocol, ensuring that the death of agency is as comfortable as possible for the null nodes, regardless of whether the roof holds up or not. Part 3. The plumbing of the collapse. To understand the 2026 rupture, you must follow the energy to the drain. We are currently living in an entropy export economy, a financial structure that explicitly rewards atmosphere over atoms. There is a catastrophic decoupling occurring. We pay a class of processors 6 figures to facilitate dialogue and manage vibes, while the people actually moving the concrete are taxed to subsidize the conversation. When you pay a null to export their mess, you shouldn't be surprised when the world becomes a junkyard. We are burning the literal fuel of our sovereign vectors to keep our parasites warm, and the 2026 rupture is simply the moment the fuel tank finally hits empty. The sound of the drain isn't just a metaphor. It is the mechanical reality of a system where the energy flows away from construction and toward the vacancy. In the world before 2026, you could afford to ignore the null. You could subsidize the vibe check and the process pause because the system had enough excess fuel to keep the lights on while you debated the atmosphere. Those days are gone. In a structure under stress, a bystander isn't just a witness. A bystander is the load. And a load that requires validation to stay upright is a parasite on the agency of everyone around them. Look at the field around you. Look at the people you rely on. If they aren't actively reducing the entropy of your mission, they are exporting their chaos to your desk. And if you refuse to apply the symmetry scalpel, if you keep trading your bricks for their hugs, then you are the one who is financing the collapse. The rupture doesn't care about your empathy. It doesn't care about your good intentions. It only cares about whether the roof holds when the wind hits the resonance frequency. Next, we move from the parasite to the breaking point. We calculate the exact mathematical limit where the weight of the null finally snaps the beam. Episode 3. The resonance ceiling. The audit is live. The choice is yours. Are you reducing the entropy, or are you just exporting the mess? Get back to work.